Hi there, Jan Copeland. How is your day going? Happy Tuesday. Thanks for joining me, whether you are here live or you are watching the replay. I value you being with me, and I'm excited that you're here. So, my name is Jan Copeland, and I am a business coach for only exclusively women real estate agents and brokers. And for my bio, you can check out all the information. Hi, Carol, at coachjancopeland.com. So let's see. You are special to me. You are important to me. And so I always want to come here every Tuesday at noon to give you some strategy or tip that's going to really move your business forward so that you can be truly, truly unstoppable in your business. Whether you want to, hi Mary, whether you want to close 6 deals a year or make six figures or plus, 6 figures plus, okay? So everything I share with you is so that you can get excited about your business again, excited about life again. Life is too short, so that's what I'm all about. So as you're joining me, I'd really love it for you to tell me how your year is going so far. In other words, do you feel like an entrepreneur? Do you feel like you're being strategic? Do you feel like you are running a business? Because if you don't, if you feel like you're being led by your broker, that's a problem. And I'm not against brokers. I don't want to bash any brokers. I have brokers within this group. But I'm talking really about big box brokers that want to keep you in their box, using their branded listing presentations, not giving you a buyer consult package. And if they did give it to you, it's quite long and extensive and overwhelming. And so stick with me in this group, and you will have a whole new lease on life, and again, get excited about life in your business. So I hope that you are feeling like an entrepreneur. Leave it in the comments if you are feeling more in control of your business, more strategic like an entrepreneur. And if you're not, then you're in the right place. You can watch the prior videos. So I wanted to share with you about, I would be remiss. Hi, Tina. Thanks for joining me. I'd be remiss if I didn't share with you about the She's Unstoppable Live conference. This is a national conference. Hi, Karen. Hi, Sheena. Hope you had a great trip away. Karen was on vacation. I bet you're tan. I want to see pictures. But I would be remiss if I didn't just mention really quickly about the national conference, She's Unstoppable Live. It's our second annual conference, and it's nothing like it on the planet. It is the only real estate conference specifically and exclusively for you, women agents and brokers. And last year it was in DC Metro. This year it's in Richmond, Virginia, my hometown. And it's going to be April 14th, day before tax day. And we have it on early bird special until special price until January 30th. So today's the 21st, I believe. So you have 9 days to take advantage of that price. And in fact, if you take advantage and buy your ticket before Friday, this coming Friday, then you have 3 bonuses coming to you. The first one is, we all know that we need to look really good online, right? You have to look really good online because chances are they're going to Google you to see, how does she look? So I'm giving you a complimentary online assessment of how you look online. When I Google your name, what comes up, and recommendations of what you should do. Secondarily, you're going to be getting a business planning workshop video that I did it live 2 Fridays ago, and then I had people begging me to do it again and extend the bonus. So we have quite a few of you who are going to be rewatching that on this coming Friday. I think it's at 3 o'clock. So it's a biz planning workshop, which gets everything lined up so that you have a strategy and a plan to implement for the rest of the year. So that's the second bonus. The third bonus is you will be receiving via email a link to each and every one of the speaker videos for the She's Unstoppable Live conference. So that's nice that you can go look at it, because when you're there, there's a lot going on. And to be able to come back and review your favorite speaker's speech is fantastic. So those are the 3 bonuses. Karen, I'm glad you had a good time. Yay. Okay. So it's she'sunstoppablelive.com. she'sunstoppablelive.com. I'm going to take one more minute and share with you that we have, if you've ever heard of the Swanepoel Power 200 list, the new one just came out. 3 of our speakers are from that list. These are the most powerful women in the residential real estate industry. Crazy, okay? So these women have moved up the ranks and they know success, and they're going to be sharing their story. They're going to be sharing tips for you. We also have industry influencers. We have Christina Daves, who is PR extraordinaire. We also have Laura Monroe, who is an amazing brand strategist. And ladies, if you've been following me, you know that I am wild about you all having, each of you having your own brand. Hi, Mo and Lucy. Thanks for joining me. So she'sunstoppablelive.com. Believe me, it's just unlike anything that you've ever been to. Okay. All right. So today we're going to finish up with a training series on buyers. Now, 4 weeks ago today, we had Winning Buyer Strategy Part 1. And that was what questions to ask a prospect and how to turn that prospect into a client. So if you missed that one, that was 4 weeks ago today, that you'll want to go back in this, back to my page, Jan Copeland, and on the left-hand side, click videos and watch that. And then 3 weeks ago today was New Year's Eve. I mean, is that crazy? 3 weeks ago today was New Year's Eve. All right. That was part 2, where we went over the buyer intake form and what that needed to have, and I offered it. So if you don't have that, let me know, and I'll be happy to get it for you. How to never, ever guarantee yourself that you're never going to take out a looky-loo again, which is amazing, right? We never want to waste time. A fun game to play when you're out showing houses that will be fun, perceived as fun from your buyer, but it's actually a way for you to keep things in line. So you'll want to watch that video. And then a touch plan for your buyers, for your buyer prospects and clients that you're working with, a touch plan to how to do that. And I talked about how you have the relocation guide, the buyer's guide, and different touches series that you do there. And then finally, we talked about how creativity converts the prospect to the buyer and makes the buyer actually want to buy, so we talked about that. 2 weeks ago, I took a break from the buyer series because I wanted to make sure that at the beginning of the year in January that I share with you that it's imperative that you grow your audience, okay? And we talked about how to specifically grow your audience online and in your market, in your local market, and how to give gifts of value and what those might be and how they will actually help you in building your audience and engaging with that audience. And then last week, I shared with you some business planning tips. I didn't go as deep, certainly, as I will in the business planning session. That is the bonus if you sign up for the She's Unstoppable Live conference. But it was a 20-minute down and dirty, what you need for your business plan in order to have a nice strategy behind what you're doing so that you wake up knowing what you're doing every day as opposed to saying, okay, what am I supposed to do? Okay, so that concern goes away. So you'll want to watch that. So today, this week, we're going to finish up the buyer series. So this is the Winning Buyer Strategy number 3. It's the last one. And so we're going to do, how to get buyers to closing, showing fewer houses, and then we make more money and we enjoy the process, okay? So the first one is how to show fewer houses. So does this sound like you? Hi, Sheila, Brittany, and Dawn. Thanks for joining me. If I didn't give you a shout out, I don't see your name, so I can only shout out the ones I see. I don't know why I don't see everyone, but hi, Joni, I see your name pop up. All right, so what we want to talk about is how to minimize the number of showings to make sure that you're not just going to be perpetually showing these buyers houses for no reason, okay? So when we talked a couple of weeks ago about the initial buyer consult meeting being a new process for you to implement, meaning when you have a buyer contact you, even if it was a past client or somebody call you from a friend, or however you get a buyer prospect, instead of meeting them at the home that they want to see, let's say they say, hey, I want to see 123 Main Street. Yes, you'll show them that house, but you're going to meet them beforehand, before showing them that house, either at your office or at a Panera or something like that. Or you can even meet at the house, but say that, before we see the home, let's just meet in the kitchen real quick for a discussion. And that is your buyer consult. Within that, as a part of that buyer consult, you're going to be filling out what I call a buyer intake form. And of course, that is where you're qualifying the client. So you are asking them, oh, why is now a time that you're really wanting to buy? So you can find out, is there real? And what is your timing, your ideal timing to be in that house? That tells you, again, how serious they are, how urgent it is, etc. And many other things about what they're looking for, a number of bedrooms, their price range, if they're paying cash or securing a mortgage. Remember, we never ask if they're pre-approved. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you definitely have to go watch that video, because asking someone if they're pre-approved is probably one of the silliest questions, because it puts them on the defensive, especially if you ask it too early. A better question in the buyer consult is, will you be paying cash for this, or will you be securing a mortgage? Boom. But I'm not going to go into all that because that's on a prior one, but I wanted to lay the groundwork for that. So now you have this buyer intake form where they had shared with you what they were looking for. Those questions that you wanted to ask them are answered. You give them a copy, you keep a copy. And now you've taken them out maybe 2 or 3 times, and they've never written on anything, yet the homes that you showed them actually are fitting the criteria. So this is what you do, ladies. After showing 2 or 3 times with them not writing an offer, it's time for another sit-down meeting. And you can go to where they live. You can go to where they work, set up a meeting. You can meet at Panera and say, let's go to lunch, or for coffee at Starbucks or whatever. And you say, I want to make sure that I know we're all busy. I want to maximize your time and my time. And so I have our, the buyer intake form that we went over a couple of weeks ago. And I'm thinking that because we've been out a few times, Jane and George, that maybe we have to talk about what isn't happening for these homes, that you're not, we're not finding the one. What do you think's the missing element? That's a wonderful question. You want to ask open-ended questions. What do you think's missing? In other words, what if it would have been there, would have made you, I like this house. So what was missing? And let them talk. If they have no idea what's missing, then say, okay, as you know, we've exhausted everything that's on the market now and that's coming soon. So I'm thinking, what do you think about expanding the areas where you would be interested in looking? So we could go farther out, for example, to get more money, to get more home for your money, or nicer finishes, because maybe if you're going through the home and the man or woman says, I don't want to update, things like that, then that kind of tells you need to be taking notes while you're taking buyers through homes, because that will tell you, they want nicer finishes and they don't exist in these zip codes or in this area, in this county, in the square footage they're looking for. See what I'm saying? So you have to really be aware of what they say as you're going through houses, right? Or you could say, I could get you the home that you want in the area that you want, but it's like 20,000 higher. So I thought I'd bring us together so that I could show my laptop and bring up some of the homes that I'm thinking of for you to see what you think. And I am not asking you or mandating that you raise your sales price or your price range. Absolutely not. But what I'm just trying to do is make sure that as your realtor, that I tell you the way it is. Because many times when a buyer comes to me, they end up getting a different than they actually thought they would because of the market, because of what's available in the market. So all that dialogue, ladies, and this will be recorded, is just gold for you. Because what you're doing is you're holding them accountable to what they told you they want. And yes, of course, we're going to acquiesce to them in terms of, give them their wishes. Of course, we want to be concierge level exceptional agents, but we don't want to be fools, right? We don't want to be fools just being led by our nose, just, let's go willy-nilly to every house that, 50 houses and they don't want to put an offer in. Okay. So then you would bring up your, the MLS, and you would look at what is available in the higher price range, or show them what they could get if they go maybe 5 miles out or just across the county line. And you know what I'm talking about, right? Okay. So that is how we work to be smarter with our buyers, to get them to write an offer and find the home of their dreams sooner than later. So that was step one. Step two is writing a winning contract. Hi, Tricia, Dawn, and Sheila. Thank you so much for joining me. If anybody has any questions, just put them in the comments. So now we're on step two, writing a winning offer for your buyers. We know that in many markets across the United States, and even into Canada, there are fewer homes for sale than there are buyers looking. So it's competitive, especially in the, the price, the most expensive, or not the most expensive, that's wrong, the most popular price ranges, right? So if you have a buyer in a very competitive price range, use these things. So number one, you want to call the listing agent and not text, ladies. We want to call. We want to be very professional. We want to say, hey, my clients are considering writing an offer on your listing at 123 Main Street. And first I want to make sure, see if you have any other offers in. Okay, great. And then secondarily, I want to know if your seller has any wishes. And by that I mean, do they have an ideal close date? Or do they have anything else that they that you know of that would be good for me to know as I write an offer? Ladies, let's say they say, well, my son is graduating high school, or my seller's son is graduating high school, and they really don't want to leave the house until June 1st, for example. That's good. That's good for you to know, right? Because then you can go back to your buyers and say, hey, we could close. We could write an offer to close early so they have their money to go about and do whatever they want, and then the sellers can rent back to you. Or would you be okay pushing out a close date until June? And so there's good intelligence that you can get, and really only by the phone call. It's ideal. And then the other reason for the phone call, ladies, before you write an offer is because you want to strike up a rapport with that agent, especially if you don't know the agent. If you know them, you can be friendly and be like, hey, I'm so excited. I hope to be working with you, whatever. But if you don't know the agent, then that's your chance and opportunity to show your professionalism and be excited and sound happy, and so that when they get the offer, they're like excited to present it to their seller. Okay? Hi, Cassidy. So that's step one, calling them. Then, in order to write a competitive offer and write a winning offer, you think about the terms. Now remember, your buyer, even if they've already bought a home, chances are they kind of forget how to write an offer. They forget what the terms are. They kind of forget the process, and they're really counting on you. So it's up to you to say, okay, she said it's getting a lot of traction. Let's just say this is you talking to your buyer. So while they don't have any offers yet, they've had a couple people go back for second looks. So my recommendation is that I've run the comps, it's priced right, whatever, of course you're going to do that. And my recommendation is that we go in at the price that you're going to feel okay if you lose it at. Okay, so in other words, I say to my buyers, if it's listed at 250 and you go in at 242 or 245 and someone else comes in at full price, are you okay losing it for a couple $1,000s? And then I pause. There's power in the pause, ladies, okay? So that's just one of the terms. So let's go over every term that is in the contract so that we can see what you want to do. So then a sales price is a term. Whether you want to ask the seller to pay for a portion of your closing costs or not is another term. Close date, of course, is a term, right? Because in this case, the example that I gave, they would rather close after the son graduates high school, right? So that can be facilitated by closing in 30 days and renting back, letting the seller rent back, or pushing out the close date because the seller would see that as favorable, right? And appreciate that. Another term would be whether to have a home inspection or not. And even the number of days that the home inspection contingency will be out there. So I would never suggest to any buyer of mine not to have a home inspection. Please don't misunderstand. But guess what, ladies? It's not your choice. It's not your decision. Remember, you present the facts to your buyers and let them decide. Okay? That's the thing. So many agents weigh in on things. And all we can do is tell them the facts. The decision is theirs because they have to live with it. So home inspection, whether you want one or not, and normally here it's 14 days, but I can call on a favor to my home inspector and maybe we can shorten that to a week. That'd be a favorable term, right? If I were a seller, I would want to get rid of the home inspection contingency as quickly as possible, right? So we have to think like a seller in order to present the winning offer. The other thing is appraisal. Now, if your buyers are getting a mortgage or securing a mortgage, then obviously they're going to have an appraisal and you can't waive the appraisal contingency. But if you ever have an instance where you have a cash buyer and they could waive the appraisal or they could have an appraisal. And then another term or kind of something to present with the offer is a note. Now, I was a listing queen, so I was more on the seller side. And most sellers get an emotional reaction with a note. And it was a good thing. But over the years, I had a few, maybe two or three sellers who were like, what are they giving me a note for? I just want the most money. I don't care about the note. I don't want to see it. So I would say if I were going to put a percentage, I would say 85% loved the note and it was a positive. And I'd say 15% were like, what's this note? Why is this here? But I just wanted to present it to you because I think that when you are thinking about submitting a winning offer, depending on the personality of the seller, it may benefit you. And you might even ask that listing agent, would your seller appreciate a note? Because hopefully the listing agent would know the personality of their seller, right? So the other thing is if you know, like when you made that phone call to the listing agent and the listing agent said, I think I'm getting a couple offers or I have one in hand, we'll wait and we're going to look at everything tonight at 7 o'clock. Then you might enact an escalation clause. And so an escalation clause, some people look favorably on it and it would be a good thing. Other people don't. So again, it's always about perception, right? Our business is a lot about psychology. So, but what it is you would, write the offer for a certain sales price, right? And then with the existence of another offer, the escalation clause would kick in. And so the escalation clause would say, purchaser agrees to beat any other written offer by $500 or $1,000 up to X sales price, right? It's an escalation. So in the example of a home being listed for $250,000, maybe they're going in at $247,500 for whatever reason. And with the escalation clause, they'll go up to $251,000. But they don't want to go all the way to $251,000 initially because they don't know what another, like in that example, what the other offer was, right? So instead, you offer what you want and then put the escalation clause in because then they're protected up to $251,000. And so if another offer came in at $251,500, they would lose because their escalation will only go to $251,000. Or would they lose? Not necessarily. Because if your other terms of the contract are better than the one that came in at $251,000 in this example, the seller might take yours, right? It's not always price. That's why I'm sharing with you, it's not always price. It could be, there's other factors like these terms, all right? And if the seller asks the agent, oh my goodness, I'm confused. You know how some sellers get totally stressed out and they're like, I'm totally confused. I don't know which offer to accept. Well, if you have a good relationship with that agent, keep your nose clean, ladies. They might say, well, you know what? I know that Jan will always get the deal done. So I don't know this other agent, but I know if you pick this one, I know that this buyer's agent gets her buyers to the closing table. You get that reputation. See? So everything counts, right? So that's the second part of what I was going to say today. And then the third part is negotiating, okay? So now you won. You wrote the winning offer, you won. The next part is negotiating. Now, it could be negotiating a counter offer. So you didn't quite win yet, but they're coming back to you. They're coming back to your buyer with a counter. The other negotiation is, of course, the home inspection or the appraisal, okay? So what I'm going to share with you can actually be used for any of those three, whether you're negotiating sales price or whether you're negotiating after a bad appraisal, the appraisal came in lower than agreed upon sales price, or if you're negotiating home inspection items to be fixed, okay? Write this down, ladies. The word reasonable wins every time. Hi, Melissa. Thanks for joining me. The word reasonable wins every time. You know, as a real estate professional, that we're dealing with buyers and sellers who are maxed out. They are stressed out over their heads. They're stressed. What happens when someone is stressed? They become unreasonable. They make decisions based on their emotions, correct? I know when I'm, worked up and stressed, I'm not as nice as I otherwise would be, right? That's why we don't get offended when our clients, get upset with us. But keeping focused on negotiation, what you always want to do is share with your client, in this case, the buyer, that the seller really wants to work with you, whether the listing agent told you that or not. And I'm not a proponent of lying, but I'm a proponent of getting my buyer the house they want. Because I was on a coaching call this morning, and my client said that her buyers were fatigued going back and forth, trying to negotiate with the seller, and they felt exhausted. And so even though they loved the home, when the seller piggybacked it to them and gave them a counter, they said, bye, we're done. And I feel like it's very easy for a buyer, quite frankly, or a seller to get fatigued by the negotiation going back and forth. So to kind of minimize that, what I would say to my buyer, what I suggest you say to your buyer is, okay, so I have great news and okay news. Which do you want first? That's what I always said when I got a counter with my buyer. I'll take the great news. Okay, the great news is that they're countering you. The okay news is that the counter is X. And I want you to know that the seller would love to work with you. It's not a lie. The seller would love to work with you. And they think, in their opinion, this is reasonable. They see this counter as reasonable. That will flatten your buyer going nuts and like just taking it defensively, right? Because that's what we tend to do. When someone counters what we say, they don't agree with what we say, what happens? Whew, I feel like I'm up against a wall. Now I'm going to get defensive, right? I'm just talking psychology here. So the way to get your negotiation through is to say, my seller really wants to work with you. Or rather, you're talking to the buyer. The seller really wants to work with you. This is what they think is reasonable. So now the ball's in your court. You can either, and you give them choices, ladies, give your buyer choices. Don't let them feel like they've got to accept that counter, because then again, that makes them feel defensive. So you want to empower your buyer. You want to empower your buyer to say, you have three choices. You can counter their counter, you can accept their counter, or you can say, I'm walking away. You are fully in control here. And these are more words to say when you are negotiating. Because when you jump on someone's side and give them the freedom to breathe, they will breathe. What I think a lot of inexperienced agents do is they say, so this is their counter, and they're almost like embarrassed, and they're like, well, so this is their counter. What do you think? No, you stand firm. You stand erect. You are very confident that, and then I say, and I'm sure we can get this done for you. I know that we'll be able to get something done for you. And last thing is, I say in any negotiation, these are words that you say, in any negotiation, neither party is 100% happy, but a month after closing, each side is going to be happy. You're going to be happy, and they're going to be happy. In the moment, you wanted them to accept your offer, but here we are. So what do you want to do? And you present it in a very positive. Do you see how that was slanted to the positive? Hey, Lynn, thanks for joining me. So ladies, those were the 3 steps, okay? Negotiating appraisal, it's pretty straightforward, exactly what I just said. I'll say one more thing about negotiating home inspection items, okay? Because this sometimes when you have a buyer in a lower price range, or even in any price range, but the home wasn't maintained as well as it should have been, and your buyer has presented the home inspection addendum with the requested items to get rid of the, to remove the inspection addendum contingency. Okay, so then the seller will come back and they'll strike out 3 or 4 things that your buyer thought was pretty important. Again, you say, hey, you know, this is what the seller said. They definitely want to work with you, and they feel this is reasonable. So this is their perception of reasonable. So at this point, what we could do is I can get my contractor in there on these 3 or 4 items that they didn't agree to, so that we know exactly what we're working with before we respond. Because obviously I don't know your state, but in Virginia, you usually have 48 or 72 hours to respond, depending on, you know, the contract language. But then you are providing a path for your buyer to make an educated decision. You are not just stating a fact. Well, this is what the seller said they're going to do. What would you like to do? I mean, that is so overwhelming. How many buyers will just say, I'm out? I had a buyer, I'm just going to give you this example as we close. I had a buyer many, many, many years ago who had a basement before, and this house they were buying had a crawl space. And it was customary that I didn't attend home inspections. Some states you have to, and mine we didn't, and I didn't go. So I followed up with them, and I said, hey, how's the home inspection going? And she said, well, we're going to want a release. And I go, oh my gosh. And it was a great house. I was like, you want a release? I said, of course. Can I ask what happened? What is wrong with that house? And she said, well, there's water in the crawl space. And I said, okay. And she goes, isn't that a big deal? I said, absolutely not. I said, you know, in this county, many crawl spaces have water because we're low on the water table and blah, 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 and it's a very easy rectification. And because of it, most sellers will do the rectification, which is about $1,200. Obviously, I don't know exactly what the issue is, but let me see the home inspection report, and then let's talk tonight. And so we talked that night, and we got the seller to put in some water intrusion things and relay a new. I've not been doing deals for a while. The plastic sheathing on the bottom, and put in a sump pump, and boom, they're in the house, and it's been probably well over 7 years. But just think about that. If that buyer told me, and they were adamant, we want out of this house, and I just remained calm. And when I minimized what they were worked up about, because of my experience, knowing that it wasn't a big deal and most sellers would do it, then the deal stayed together. Okay, so I think that it's very important to stay calm also when you are negotiating and trying to get a deal to closing. So ladies, this is a great, great, chock full of gold video that you want to come back and watch again, because what I shared with you will keep your buyers focused, will get them to write to get you, and we'll get you winning offers that get accepted, and then we'll keep the deal together and get you to closing, which is having a huge impact on your community, because you are connecting buyers and they're getting the home that they want, and you are making good money. So that is it for now. I don't see any questions in the chat. What I want you to do is tell me, thumbs up, write in the comments, good stuff, if you think this is good stuff. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. If you have any questions, write them in the comments. I'll stay around for 2 more minutes. And then if you think it's good, give me a thumbs up and or write good stuff. I want to see some good stuff. See if anybody else joined me. Trisha, I'm not sure if I said hello to you. All right, I have 1 more minute. 1 more minute, 1 more minute. Ah, thanks, Tina. Carol says, good stuff. Tina said, good stuff. Thank you. You're awesome. I am here to support you, ladies. I want you to make good money and enjoy. Oh, I want you to enjoy what you're doing. I so want you to enjoy what you're doing. All right, ladies, thank you so much. And I'll see you next week. Bye.